Australia has over 10,000 beaches spread across 6 states and 2 territories. You got everything from the warm coral-fringed islands of the Great Barrier Reef to the wild wind-swept bays down by the Southern Ocean. So yeah, narrowing that down was not easy, but in this video we've picked 10 beaches that are actually worth planning an entire trip around. Welcome to Optimized Travel Destinations. My name is Brandon, and I'm part of the Optimized Travel team. We help travelers plan amazing trips through our concierge service, and our team has worked together to list the absolute best beaches Australia has to offer. Let's count down the 10 best beaches in Australia. Number 10, Airlie Beach. Airlie Beach is less of a beach and more of a launch pad, and honestly, that's exactly what makes it worth your time. It's on the Whitsunday coast in Queensland, about 1,100 kilometers north of Brisbane. The town itself wraps around Pioneer Bay, and while the water looks beautiful and crystal clear, most people actually swim in the giant lagoon pool right in the town center. That's because box jellyfish and other marine stingers can make the bay pretty risky from about October through May. As a base for the Whitsunday Islands, Airlie Beach is hard to beat. Every morning, boats head out from the marina to the islands. And all around town, you'll find hostels, holiday parks, restaurants, and bars packed with travelers making the most of their downtime. It's a young, special kind of place where there's always a bit of energy in the air. My favorite thing about Airlie Beach is how quickly it strips away any sense of routine or desire to be busy. And I bet within a day of arriving, you're going to forget what city life feels like. If you're coming for the sailing, book your Whitsunday's boat trip before you arrive. The popular vessels sell out weeks ahead, especially during the July to September peak season. Also, make sure to budget at least 2 nights at Airlie Beach so you can actually see the town as a base rather than just sleeping through it. Number 9, Noosa Main Beach. If Airlie Beach is where you come for adventure, Noosa is where you come to feel like you're living well. Noosa sits at the northern end of the Sunshine Coast. That's about 150 kilometers north of Brisbane. Noosa Main Beach faces north, which means it's unusually sheltered by Queensland standards. And you can expect a gentle surf, calm water, and a reliable morning sun that hits the sand early and stays all day. The beach is wide, clean, and backed by the famous Hastings Street Strip, where you'll find boutiques, restaurants, surf shops, and an atmosphere that somehow manages to feel like a holiday even when you're just stopping in to buy sunscreen. Nobody rushes in Noosa, and I love that about the place. What separates Noosa from other Queensland beach towns is the national park right on its doorstep. The headland walk to Noosa National Park takes you along coastal cliffs, through patches of rainforest, and past smaller coves that you'll have almost to yourself. And for wildlife lovers, there are dolphins that cruise the bay regularly, and koalas appear in the trees along the boardwalk if you're out early in the day. I think Tea Tree Bay inside the national park is the real beach highlight here, even more than Main Beach itself. It's just 15 minutes on foot from Hastings Street, and most visitors never make it there. Visit between May and October for the best conditions. Queensland beach seasons run through the dry winter months, and December to February is the wet season when both humidity and stinger risk are significant. Number 8, 4 Mile Beach, Port Douglas. Port Douglas is the kind of place that makes you question every holiday you've taken before. It's a small tropical town about 70 kilometers north of Cairns, in far north Queensland. 4 Mile Beach is exactly what the name suggests, a nearly 4-kilometer straight of sand running along the Coral Sea, backed by a line of coconut palms and fronted by shallow, warm water. What makes this beach unusual is its proximity. The Great Barrier Reef is a 45-minute boat ride away, so you get the long sandy stretch in the morning, and you can be floating above coral gardens by midday. There really aren't many places in the world where those two things happen on the same day. Port Douglas itself is small, with maybe 4,000 permanent residents, but the restaurant scene punches well above its size. Macrossan Street has fresh barramundi, local reef fish, and tropical fruit at every turn, and it's consistently one of those towns where every meal is better than expected. Honestly, Port Douglas hits a quality to crowds ratio that Cairns simply can't match. It's quieter, more relaxed, and the overall experience of being there feels more considered. And the Daintree Forest is only about 45 minutes north, making it really easy to work in a full-day trip between your reef days and beach days. That combination is what makes this part of Queensland so special. Number 7, Bondi Beach. Bondi doesn't need an introduction, but it does deserve an honest one. Bondi Beach is in Sydney's eastern suburbs, about 8 kilometers from the city centre, and reachable by bus in around 25 minutes. It curves in a neat horseshoe between two sandstone headlands where the surf is consistent, the sand is white gold, and the beach culture is real rather than performed. Bondi earned its global reputation for a reason. The waves suit both beginners and intermediates. The lifeguards are professional and ever present, and the mix of locals and visitors is more even than most people expect. What I love about it is that you can come here on a Tuesday morning in autumn and it's still buzzing. Not because anyone made an event out of it, but because this is simply where Sydney comes. The Bondi Coogee Coastal Walk is arguably better than the beach itself. The path runs 6 kilometers along cliff tops past Tamarana, Bronte, and Gordons Bay, all the way to Coogee, and every 30 minutes of walking opens a new bay and a new cafe to stop at. I recommend walking the coastal path first thing in the morning before 7:30 if you can, when the path feels alive but uncrowded. The light on the sandstone cliffs at that hour is genuinely beautiful. Bondi does get very crowded December through February. The shoulder seasons, March to May and September to November, give you the beach in its best form. And if you visit in winter, the Iceberg's ocean pool is still open and completely worth the cold water swim. Number 6. Cable Beach, Broome. There's exactly one beach in Australia where you can ride a camel along the waterline at sunset, and this is it. Cable Beach runs for 22 kilometers along the Indian Ocean coast near Broome. It's a remote port town in the Kimberley region of Western Australia, roughly 2,200 kilometers north of Perth. It's one of the most isolated major beaches in the country, which means getting here requires some commitment. But it also means the horizon is genuinely vast and completely uninterrupted. The color of the water at Cable Beach changes through the day in a way photographs don't fully capture. At midday, it's flat turquoise, but as the sun drops, the sky turns amber, the sea turns gold, and the tidal flats throw reflections across the entire beach. It's the kind of scene that feels almost orchestrated, and honestly, one of the most beautiful things I've seen in Australia. Broome itself adds real depth to the visit. The town has a fascinating Chinatown heritage from its pearl diving era, and some genuinely good restaurants given how remote it is. And then there's Gantome Point, a red sandstone cliff just 5 minutes from the beach with 130 million-year-old dinosaur footprints exposed at low tide, which is one of those things you just don't expect to find. My favorite thing about Cable Beach is how it resets your sense of scale. You've driven or flown to one of the most remote places in Australia, and the beach you arrive at is 22 kilometers long. It really changes how you think about distance out here. The best time to visit Broome is April through October during the dry season. The wet season from November to March brings extreme heat, humidity, and even cyclone risk. And for the staircase to the moon, where a full moon over the tidal flats creates the optical illusion of steps, visit between March and October on full moon evenings. Number 5. Hyams Beach. The Guinness World Record for the whitest sand in the world belongs to an almost completely unknown beach 4 hours south of Sydney. Hyams Beach sits inside Jervis Bay, a sheltered marine park on the New South Wales south coast, about 200 kilometers south of Sydney. The bay is protected with no big surf, and the silica content of the sand is so high it actually squeaks when you walk on it. The whiteness isn't a photo filter or a brochure embellishment. Standing on this beach on a clear day, the sand is almost painful to look at directly. The water goes from pale mint near the shore to deep teal further out, and the contrast is crazy. The beach itself is small, maybe 400 meters, which keeps it feeling intimate even with visitors. The surrounding Jervis Bay Marine Park is one of the best dolphin watching locations on the East Coast. Southern right whales migrate through from June to November. Bottlenose dolphins are year-round residents, and guided kayak operators run morning tours directly from the beach. If I had to pick one thing to do at Hyams Beach, it would be the headland walk south along the coast toward Boonderee National Park. The views back over the bay from the cliff tops are genuinely better than anything you'd see from the sand itself. Hyams Beach is extremely popular on summer weekends, and the small car park fills by 8 a.m. in December and January. Aim to get there before 7:30 if you're driving from Sydney in peak season, or visit on a weekday. The shoulder seasons of April to May and September to October offer the best experience with the smallest crowds. Number 4. Lucky Bay. Lucky Bay has a fairly standard wildlife situation as far as Australian beaches go, and let's just say the kangaroos use it as their personal sunbathing spot. Lucky Bay is in Cape Le Grand National Park. That's about 55 kilometers east of Esperance in Western Australia's South Coast region. roughly 720 kilometers southeast of Perth. The bay curves in a tight white arc. The water is Southern Ocean cold and Southern Ocean vivid, and on any given morning you'll find eastern grey kangaroos stretched out directly on the sand. The beach ranks among the whitest in Australia, with ultra-fine quartz and similar to Hyams Beach, but Lucky Bay's water runs a completely different color. The Southern Ocean blues here are deeper, cooler, and more electric than the warmer northern coasts, and on a cloudless day the scene looks almost unreal. Cape Le Grand National Park has several other beaches worth exploring. Hellfire Bay, Thistle Cove, and Rossiter Bay are all within the park and each slightly different in character, and spending 2 days working through all of them is genuinely worth it. I recommend arriving before 8 a.m. when the kangaroos are most active on the sand and the morning light hits the water at its best angle. The midday version is still beautiful, but the early morning version is the one you remember. Lucky Bay is about a 2.5-hour drive from Kalgoorlie and about 7 hours from Perth. Esperance is the natural base with decent accommodation and, by general agreement, the best fish and chips on the south coast. Visit between September and May for manageable weather because winter can bring wild seas and strong winds. Number 3. Turquoise Bay. Turquoise Bay is where you come when you want to snorkel a pristine coral reef and still have a beach to lie on afterward. It's inside Cape Range National Park, near the town of Exmouth on Western Australia's Coral Coast. It's about 1,260 kilometers north of Perth. Ningaloo Reef runs along this entire coastline, and unlike the Great Barrier Reef, it comes right to the shore. You can walk into the water from the beach and be swimming above coral in under a minute. The snorkeling drift at Turquoise Bay is one of the genuinely great reef experiences in the country. You enter the water at the northern end of the bay, drift south with the gentle current, and the reef passes beneath you with coral formations, reef fish, sea turtles, and the occasional ray. Then you exit at the southern end, walk back up the beach, and go again. It's self-guided, it's free, and it's super cool. Ningaloo is also Australia's most reliable place to swim with whale sharks, the largest fish on Earth. They visit the reef between March and July each year, and licensed operators run guided swims from Exmouth. That experience alone justifies the drive from Perth. Honestly, Turquoise Bay is where Australia's reputation for snorkeling actually lives up to itself. The Great Barrier Reef is more biodiverse, sure, but it requires a boat trip and significant cost. Here, the reef meets the beach. The drift snorkel works best on a flood tide, so check the local tide chart before going. The Cape gets extremely hot from November to March, so April through October is the ideal window. And bring your own snorkel gear if you can, as rental options at the bay itself are limited. Number 2. Wineglass Bay. Some beaches earn their reputation, and Wineglass Bay earned it around the moment the first aerial photograph was taken, and it takes the runner-up spot on my list. Wineglass Bay sits inside Freycinet National Park on Tasmania's east coast. That's about 2.5 hours northeast of Hobart. The beach forms a near-perfect crescent, wide, white, and enclosed by pink granite mountains on 3 sides. And the only way in is on foot. The walk from the car park to the Wineglass Bay lookout takes about 30 minutes of steady uphill through sparse eucalyptus bush. So it is not going to be for everyone. At the top though, the view of the bay below is one of those moments where you stop talking, maybe even stop breathing just to take it all in. Then from the lookout, it's another 30 minutes down to the sand. Thankfully, the beach is rarely crowded as the walk definitely filters out casual visitors. Come on a weekday in autumn and you can have the whole bay to yourself for stretches. The water is cold as you'd expect from Tasmania, but it's crystal clear and sharp blue-green. I actually think the view from the lookout is the highlight more than the beach itself. Both are remarkable, but there's something about seeing that perfect crescent framed by mountains from above that stays with you longer. I recommend timing your hike for the morning. The light hits Wineglass Bay from the east, so early morning gives the best photography and coolest walking temperatures. If you plan to stay nearby, Freycinet Lodge and the glamping options book out months in advance during peak season, which is December through February. Before we get to number 1, the place our whole team agreed belongs at the top of this list, I want to take a moment to tell you about why we made this video in the first place. Planning a trip to Australia can be genuinely overwhelming. The country has over 10,000 beaches across 6 states and 2 territories, and the best ones aren't always the most obvious. Getting to them often involves internal flights, long drives, or ferries, and the seasons matter enormously. Arriving in the wrong window can mean stingers in Queensland or wild seas in the south. That's exactly what Optimized Travel was built for. Our concierge team specializes in building Australia itineraries that combine the right beaches, the right seasons, and the right logistics. So every day of your trip is actually working for you. Head to optimizedtravel.com to find out more, or click the link in the description. And now, number 1, Whitehaven Beach. Every country has one beach that benchmarks everything else. For Australia, it's this one. Whitehaven Beach runs for 7 kilometers along Whitsunday Island in the Coral Sea, Queensland, about 25 kilometers off the coast from Airlie Beach and accessible only by boat, seaplane, or helicopter. There are no permanent residents, no resort, and no infrastructure on the island, just the beach. The sand at Whitehaven is 98% pure silica, which means it doesn't retain heat and stays cool to the touch even in summer. And it photographs as an almost artificial white against the blue water. The most photographed angle is Hill Inlet at the northern end, where tidal movement shifts the sand in constantly changing swirling patterns of white and turquoise. Because access requires a boat or flight, most visits are day trips from Airlie Beach or Hamilton Island, and operators typically combine the beach with snorkeling stops at the outer reef. The boat ride takes about 45 minutes from Airlie, though it can be longer if conditions are rough. And conditions on the Coral Sea can shift quickly. My favorite thing about Whitehaven Beach is that it's just as good as people say it is. Australia has a handful of places that fully live up to their reputation, and this is one of them. The silica sand, the Hill Inlet patterns, the coral reef access. It actually exists even outside of Instagram. Visit between June and October for the clearest conditions and lowest stinger risk. The Whitsundays are beautiful year-round, but stinger season from November to May requires protective suits for swimming. And make sure to book your day trip operator well in advance, as the popular vessels fill 2 to 3 weeks out in peak season. So, these are the 10 best beaches in Australia. From the social hub of Airlie Beach all the way to the unmatchable silica sands of Whitehaven. Each one has a genuine reason to be on your list. If you're ready to plan your trip, head to optimizedtravel.com. Our team is ready to help you build the perfect itinerary. And let us know in the comments below. Are you a tropical North Queensland beach person? Or does the rugged remote beauty of Western Australia's coast speak to you more? Drop it below. We read every single comment and look forward to hearing from you. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe. We cover the world's best destinations every week, and we'd love to have you along for the ride.